Hello and welcome to the Lund University International Podcast. On the show, you'll hear from current students, alumni, researchers, professors, and many more special guests as we explore what it's really like to live, study, and work at Lund University in Sweden, a world top 100 university. My name is Tim Parker, and I am an International Communications Officer at External Relations. Today, we're diving into the topic of returning home from an exchange. Joining us are three fantastic students who have recently returned to Sweden after spending a semester or more abroad. They'll share their experiences of transitioning back home, from navigating reverse culture shock to rediscovering life with family, friends, and academic routines here at Lund University. We'll also explore the lessons they've brought back on an academic, cultural, and personal level, and hear how their exchanges have shaped their future aspirations. Plus, they'll offer advice for students preparing to return home after their own adventures abroad. So welcome Adina, Emmie, and Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please introduce yourself, what you're studying, and where you took your exchange and when.
So I'm Adina, and I study the clinical psychologist program here at Lund. And last semester, I was abroad in Dunedin in New Zealand for 1 semester.
My name is Adam. I'm currently studying a Bachelor of Science in Political Science here at Lund University, and I went to Montreal in Canada last spring.
And my name's Emmie. I am, as we all are, from Sweden, and I did my exchange in the spring of 2024 at the University of Auckland in New Zealand as part of the law program here in Lund, and I'm currently studying the Master in International Human Rights Law.
Fantastic. And before we talk about returning home, I'm really interested to hear a few quick highlights from your exchange.
Ooh, there's so many highlights. So I was at McGill University in Montreal in Canada, and I would say one of the highlights was just when I came there, like at the arrival, meeting all the other exchange students was such a fun experience. We became quite a big exchange community. It was really fun, but also I had the privilege of getting to know many locals through my courses. So I would say the first weeks were definitely one of the highlights for me. It was so fun to be in a new environment and to meet so many new people from a diverse group of people, just like from different countries and cultures. That was really a highlight for me.
I kind of feel the opposite. Like the beginning, I was enjoying myself because I was so social, and I really enjoy being social. And as you said, you just meet so many people, but I was also overwhelmed and I didn't find my people at the beginning. So I feel like my highlight was like further into the exchange when life was pretty stable. And especially my friend group, we were like 8 girls who became pretty close. We had Wednesday dinner every Wednesday together, which was really nice. And also like the little trips that we made. And I challenged myself by climbing and running and tramping, as they say in New Zealand, when you go hiking.
Is that tramping?
Tramping, yeah.
Wow.
I did that a lot too, actually. Yeah, my highlights are definitely the little trips and journeys I made.
Beautiful views,
Yeah,
right?
Obviously, I'm meeting with really great people too, so that's definitely part of it. But I had already been traveling for 4 months at that point, so I was quite into the meeting new people all the time, experiencing new things all the time. So for me, it was more of the nature and the little trips with my more long-term friends in this case, which is really nice. And I also went to a festival for the first time, which was really cool. It was a Maori festival, so it also had like a lot of cultural elements to it, which was really nice.
Yeah,
really cool.
I was just going to say, regarding what you said, Adina, I definitely agree that the first couple of weeks were challenging. So I wouldn't say that was the best time that I had during the entire exchange, but right now thinking back on it, one of the highlights was definitely the first, like, just immersing yourself in a completely new situation and new culture. But I agree that probably I probably was at a better place mentally and like my friends later on in the semester when I had like an established friend group, and I also moved once. And after I did that move, it was after the first month, I felt way more at home with my new roommates and everything. So that felt amazing. Yeah.
Cool.
And did you experience any culture shock initially when you went on exchange?
That's a good question. I feel like the culture shock was for me more towards like the whole international community than towards like New Zealand culture, I think, because it isn't like extremely dissimilar to Swedish culture, I don't think. But like in the exchange community with like lots of Americans and like people from different parts of the like world, I felt that like there was a crazy sort of openness where everybody just started talking to everybody. And I feel like that's not Swedish at all. And I never do that when I'm back home. So that was a bit of a reverse culture, or no, just normal culture shock.
Yeah.
Where I was like, whoa.
That is true. Like when you're abroad, it feels like you get to know people within minutes.
Yeah.
Because you start talking about deep and like
Yeah.
heavy things right away.
And you have no one else.
And you have no one else. So you have to share your insecurities or your overwhelm with other people who are in the same situation. Yeah.
That's so interesting because now I'm the reverse from what you said, Adina. I had my culture shock was definitely more with assimilating into the Canadian French culture because Canadians, so Montreal is in Quebec, which is the French speaking region of Canada, and it's a very interesting mix of, I would say, European culture but also North American culture, which I've never seen before because I've never been in Canada. I've only been to the US, and obviously I've been to different places in Europe. So that was probably the biggest culture shock. Like, oh, this completely new mix of customs and like maybe attitudes as well, how you interact with strangers and everything. And also, of course, the French language. I know a little bit of French, but I'm definitely not fluent. And it's a very different French from France French. So I'd say that was the biggest shock for me. What I felt like meeting other exchange people or meeting like other international students was more comforting because it's like, oh, it feels like we're on the same boat as opposed to the locals who are like very deep in their own culture, I would say.
I've also been in a lot of different cultural situations before and spent a lot of time with different people from all over the world. So that was also not very noticeable for me when I came to New Zealand.
Yeah.
But you know, you also obviously have things like, oh, now there's alcohol in the supermarkets instead of in Systembolaget.
Yeah.
Things like that. So it can be small things too.
Yeah.
And but it was not very dissimilar, as you said, Adina, also to Sweden.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also I feel like academically there was a bit of a culture shock for me because I feel like the universities, I think in many parts of the world, are like very dissimilar to Sweden. For me, like I always have like one course at a time. And like I take one paper at a time, then I'm done, and then I take the next one. And then in New Zealand, I had 4 papers at the same time, and like the lectures were way shorter. Like here, I usually have like a 4-hour lecture that is like 45 minutes and then 15-minute break, 45 minutes, blah blah blah. And in New Zealand, it was like 1 hour, and then nothing else, and then 1 hour in another subject.
Yeah,
I don't know, and everything in that regard were like very dissimilar.
True.
For me, it was quite similar to what it's been here with the law program. We have a lot of time to study on our own here as well, but that might entail like 2 or 3 classes a week. But I had 1 class a week for the whole semester in New Zealand.
Wow.
I took an intensive course and then another master course. So it was a different level, so a lot of self-studies. But I had the best professor and the best course, the most interesting course I've ever taken there.
Me
It was really interesting.
I had the exact same experience. My favorite course I've ever taken, and the best professor I've ever had, hands down. And it left me because I was in the same program as Adina before my exchange. I was in the clinical psychology program as well, and I went on my exchange as a part of that program. But I also took an elective, which was Introduction to Political Theory, and the professor in that course was the best professor I ever had, and it really made me fall in love with that specific part of political science. So that kind of, I mean, I've been thinking of making the switch before, but that was really
You had kind of decided.
I'd kind of decided, but that was really the like deciding factor. It was like, wow, I'm in love with this course.
Yeah.
I really want to do this coming home as well. So yeah, it's interesting that we all had this
Big impact.
Yeah, big impact.
Change the course of your life.
Professor Abazadi, I owe a lot to him.
Shout out.
If he's listening.
You can send it to him.
Yeah, it needs
Thank
credit.
you.
And I know you all had fantastic experiences on your exchange, but I'm also really interested to hear about coming home. So what was it like coming back to Sweden? Did you experience so-called reverse culture shock?
in addition to my exchange, I also went backpacking for 4 months before, and then I spent 4 weeks traveling back through Southeast Asia on my way home as well. And that for me was a more transformative and more culture shocky experience than going to New Zealand. So when I came back home, you know, because I had changed a lot during my experience, and all the experiences I had abroad changed the way I thought about the world, and my habits changed and routines and everything. And I started to notice new sides to myself. And when I came home and everything was exactly the same that it was when I left, it was actually kind of difficult to settle back in and be like, how do I reconnect with the old parts of my life, and how do I fit my new self into these situations? Like, how do I was a little bit concerned, to be fair, if my friendships would still be the same as when I left. And most of them were, and most of them grew deeper. But some of them actually, maybe not the deepest connections I had from Leonard before I left either. But they are no longer like close friends to me, because we were dissimilar from the beginning, and now we have very different priorities and opinions in life. So that was very interesting to me.
Yeah. I like what you said about growing closer. I have like a very, very close friend that I had sort of grown, I don't know, a little bit. We had gotten a little bit of distance between us for the last couple of the last couple of years, and then it had slowly begun to get better, and we had begun getting more close. And then when I moved to, or like when I went on exchange, we actually started talking on the phone pretty often, and now I feel like we are way closer than we were before I went on exchange, which was very nice.
Yeah, that's so nice.
Yeah.
I felt I actually thought it was very easy to come back to Sweden and come back to Lund University. I thought that was like a really, I don't know, it was a very easy transition for me. But one thing I thought about a lot was kind of like, so when you're on exchange, you're meeting new people all the time, and everyone's very open, and you talk to new people, and everyone just like wants to make friends and everything. And I really liked that mentality. Everything was also quite unplanned. It was very like on the go. And then when I came back to Sweden, and maybe in my old ways, and also interacting with Swedish culture, I felt a bit sad that we didn't really have the same openness maybe that I experienced in Montreal.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
It's the same in New Zealand. It's also not just the international community, which I didn't make many local friends, unfortunately, but all the other exchange students I met, super open. Yeah. You connect super fast. You do things on the fly. It's really nice. And then in Sweden, as you say, it's very planned and structured, and you have a little bubble, and it's very difficult sometimes to step outside of it. So I was also very sad about it. And I think that's quite a common experience with exchange student.
It's also, I mean, there's good and bad sides to everything. I think the unplanned factor kind of drove me crazy at some things on my exchange. I was like, oh, come on. Like, I can make plans, and then someone just wouldn't show up, or like people just have it's a very different way of like making plans. And it's like, what is this?
What is going on?
But so that was also nice coming back to be like, oh, actually, no, I know
people will show up.
I know people will show up. I know that, like, I would say, like, amongst the Swedish youth, it's very like, everyone's quite, I don't know how to describe it. It feels like everyone's very responsible, and there's like a politeness aspect to it. Like, if we've decided something, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Whereas, and I think maybe that had more to do with the exchange experience and everything being quite transient rather than actually the local culture.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was still a completely different mindset from people maybe who live here permanently, and like, I don't know, you're the friends that you've had for a long time. Maybe there's a different way of doing things.
Yeah. I also felt I got bored quite easily when I came back, because all of these new things that happen all the time, and you make plans spontaneously and meet new people all the time. It wasn't really here. So that was also an aspect of it. But I also want to mention, because I went to Zimbabwe for a summer course a few years back, and coming back from that was a lot more difficult for me. I spent a week just laying on the couch trying to figure out how the world worked, and trying to kind of fit what I knew from Sweden and everything I'd read online and stuff with my lived experiences there, and actually having witnessed how people lived. There is a very big lack of opportunities for youth there. And it was debilitating coming back from that for a bit. Just the mind had to do a lot of work to fit back into Swedish society. Yeah,
I relate a lot to what you said about I don't know, openness. And I grew kind of disappointed with myself, because when I was in New Zealand, I was like, I love this.
Yeah.
I will bring this back to Sweden.
Yeah.
I will approach people at parties. I will, because I am very outgoing and love being social. But I don't know. And I was like, I will just start talking to strangers. I will go up to people in bars, you know.
Yeah.
And then I come back and I was like, nah. Like immediately I was like, I saw someone that I barely, like, you know how in Sweden it's like you see someone that you have met like once or twice and you duck them. You're like, don't look at me. And then you go the other way. And I was like 1 week being back, I did that. And I was like, no, why? I want to be open. And I want to be that person that is like, hi, oh my God, how are you? But that was very hard.
It's easy when everyone else is doing it, because then you kind of get you're just a part of it. But when it's you, when the responsibility is on you, but I think
a lot of work.
I think admitting is the first step, and I think we can like all do this.
I will keep trying.
You should. And I had the same plans.
Yeah.
And they also fell through.
Yeah, but I also had plans to be more in nature and like go on like weekend trips a little bit more, which I feel like I have done since I got back. So that's good for me.
Yeah.
Very good, Adina. Well done.
I'm also curious about academic life.
Yeah.
How was it fitting back into that?
Oh,
I feel like it was pretty easy for me. It's like, it's just you are very used to it and you've been doing it. Like I had been doing it for like 2 years almost before. So it was easy. And it was kind of nice to go back to the system that I'm used to.
Yeah.
And also to write in Swedish. Easier. So that was nice. And also I really like that here I have like my class and we have every lecture together. So we have lunch together every day. It's like a bigger community, whereas in New Zealand it was like I had courses and then I would meet like one friend in one course and then one course I didn't have any friends maybe.
Yeah.
And then I would go home and have lunch. So it was less of like a community throughout the day there, which I enjoy with my life in Sweden.
Yeah, that's really interesting because I felt like academically, I feel like the level of difficulty in Canada, like in the courses and lectures and maybe like the content was probably a bit higher than here in Lund. But I felt like the exams were way easier in Canada because the exams were mostly multiple choice questions and with some essay questions that were very short, like 1 page of handwritten, 1 A4 of handwritten, like an essay.
Oh, wow.
An essay answer. Whereas in Lund, it's in the social science, it's like the exams are quite difficult sometimes, and they're very long essays, and there's high demand, very structure and like rigor. Whereas I felt in Canada it was more like up the wazoo. Like you can probably write anything as long as you've understood the course.
Yeah.
But I would say the day-to-day academic life was maybe a bit easier. So that was nice coming back being like, but then the exams are a bit hard.
Threw you off.
Yeah.
Interesting. I had the opposite experience. But I took master level courses when I was in New Zealand, and there was a lot of, it is different, and there was a lot of personal responsibility put into that. So I was going to write 2 13,000 word essays in that one semester. So yes, I managed to do one, but I managed to get it in, and it was really nice.
That's like more than a dissertation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Doing both of those at the same time would be more than my dissertation in a year and a half too. But after when I got home, right, so I started my master right after. So I am still in an international class. We speak English all the time. I do all of my essays in English. Still very essay focused, but they are obviously quite a lot shorter now.
Yeah.
But no, I really enjoy it. I enjoy studying in a multicultural environment and having more perspectives from all over the world. So I really appreciate my master. But yeah, in terms of academic rigor, I had a lot more personal responsibility in New Zealand to produce a lot of words.
In English.
In English, but I'm quite used to that, so that wasn't a problem for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. The language wasn't it was mainly just like, I don't know, it's interesting because I had some courses in Montreal that were very large. Like we were 700 people in one course.
Oh yeah, same. That's very, I'm not used to that. We're usually like 50.
And that was more of like I don't know, the professor almost became like a stand-up comedian as well. It was like he needed to entertain that many people. He had to be like more present, I guess.
Yeah.
But I had some courses where we were like 30 people, and then I felt like the professor engaged way more in us as individuals, like placed higher demands on like, you need to actually say this, you need to say this, you need to answer this question, which was very good for me, I think, because I had to be more prepared.
Yeah.
And that's something I miss a little bit coming here, because my courses now were so many, so it's difficult to get that personal connection with the professor.
Yeah, I feel like my attention span also, because I only had such short lectures in New Zealand. I felt coming back, I was like, oh my God. And also like my lectures here, they are like good at maybe doing their research and then not maybe as good as lecturing. Whereas in New Zealand, I feel like they were really like, they were lecturers.
Yeah, they were like teachers.
Yeah. And that was a big difference. So I feel like I'm less impressed by my lecturers now, and I get bored more easily. That's kind of harsh. But yeah, and my attention span is worse. I'm like, why am I wasting my
They
time?
might be better researchers though.
Yeah.
Probably they are.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think my professors in Canada did any research.
No.
They only taught. But I mean, there's as I said before, there's good and bad sides to everything. It's just it's a different system. So some things work better for some people.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
And now a huge question for all of you. How has your exchange changed you as a person?
Oh.
Whoa. There's a big question. I feel like I for me, my exchange was like a lot of, I don't know, doing sports activities that I would never do otherwise. Just because everyone that goes on exchange to New Zealand is like crazy about extreme sports. So all of my friends, they were like climbing, surfing, hiking up like extremely high mountains like every weekend, and running. They were like doing marathons and everything.
So many people.
And yeah, it was like I was there, Christchurch marathon, like not a marathon though, but I did 10K, and that was like very big for me because I've never run in my entire life. So I feel like I gained a lot of confidence in myself in like the sporty parts of life, because I just had so many experiences of being able to do something that I did not think that I could ever be able to do. So I feel more confident and more like open to trying new, especially like sporting activities.
That's a good change.
Yeah, right? Yeah, go me.
Yeah, go you.
Yeah.
Well, I was, I think for me, I went in a slightly different direction. I do really enjoy outdoorsy stuff too. I'm never going to run a marathon, but that's another thing. But I was already quite certain before that I really enjoy and I thrive in an international environment, and I do want to go abroad more and everything. But now I also know that I could do pretty well living pretty much anywhere. So that was kind of a confidence boost as well. And you learn to navigate new situations quite easily. And I'm a lot more sure of who I am and where my priorities lie and what I'm comfortable with and not comfortable with. And I become quite good at extracting myself from uncomfortable situations. So that's also very good things to learn.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I think definitely I've gotten more open.
Yeah.
And I'm also quite sociable as a person, but I think I've become more sociable after my exchange.
Yeah.
Just because you had to, because you and I had I was fortunate enough to travel to Montreal with a close friend who also was going to do an exchange at McGill. So that was nice, but I mean, that was one friend, and you can't only hang out with the same friend all the time. So there was still pressure to make new friends. And I would say, so for example, I remember we had tutorials in Montreal, which are like conferences, like seminars basically. And I remember the first conference I was in, we were like 20 people. And I remember I was like, there was one guy and I was like, oh, this guy seems interesting. I want to get to know him. And then I just walked up to him after the conference was over, because he asked the tutor, he was like, oh, I haven't done my readings. Like, I'm behind. Am I going to be okay? And then I was like, oh, do you want to study together afterwards? And then we became really close friends.
Social.
And he was also from Toronto, but he was like a local in a sense, which was really great, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have made local friends if I didn't do that, if I didn't go up to people. Because otherwise you meet exchange people through like organized events or like parties. But to actually meet locals, there's a higher, you need to take more responsibility to like do it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that was really great because now I do that in my new courses now as well, and I make friends, and it's really fun.
Yeah, I've also noticed that. Like, it's a lot easier to go up to people you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all feel an increase in like believing in our own ability
to confidence
to
social aptitude,
socialize, and sport.
Yes, and sports. Very important.
Students. Was there anything else you think you brought home with you? It could be academic, cultural, personal.
Ooh.
You've already talked about quite a few things.
Yeah, I for sure think that my like English writing skills became better because I felt very confident in my talking and like reading also, and like my understanding. But I feel like just writing academically, I hadn't done really that much before.
Yeah.
So that was a skill that I'm bringing with me.
Well, I've grown more adaptable, I think, even more than before. I adapt very easily and fast to new situations now. And because of, like, there is a lot more culture that is quite evident in New Zealand if you know where to look, like the Maori culture and the Pacific Islanders and all of the other cultures. So I have a much higher now wanting for culture. I'm starting to get back into social dancing, like bug and salsa and stuff, which is really fun. But it's, I did that when I was little, and now it's really fun to do that again. And then you can connect with a whole new side of Sweden again as well, which is really interesting. So more curious.
Yeah, I think what I'm bringing home, I think my style and my tastes have been influenced quite a lot by my exchange. Because
like dress.
Both clothes, fashion. Also like
actually same.
Also like I don't know what like stores I like, or like cafes I like, bars, like a specific vibe. So Montreal has a really flourishing like fashion scene, but also like nightclub scene and things like that. And I would say navigating that was really interesting, and also made me like more, because I've lived in Sweden all my life before that. So it was seeing new things made me more confident in my own taste, because I was like, I like this, I don't like that as much, and I'm definitely bringing that home with me, and I'm more explorative, I guess, now than I was before, which is fun.
Nice. And did your exchange inspire you for your future academic and professional career?
Well, you've already told us, Adam.
Yeah, 100%. Specific within, like, this is very niche, but specifically within political theory, which was one of the courses I had. I'm now quite adamant in doing even my master's in political theory, which is very specific, and I probably wouldn't have done that, because when I registered for the course, I thought political theory was something completely different from what it actually was. And then when I started the course, I realized, I love this so much. So definitely like academic inspiration, I would say. And also making contacts there is also great for like knowing what other people are studying and what they want to do in the future, and talking about internships people are doing, and like getting inspiration. So yeah.
I felt more pressure in a way, because I feel like a lot of the exchange students that I met, they had to like work as well as study, and they had to like start working on their resume as they were studying, and that made me kind of stressed, because I feel like I haven't done that at all. So that was a little bit like of an initial stressor, that I was like, oh my God, I have to like sort my life out, and then I got back and I was like, okay, actually you can chill, and I enjoy more the life that I have in Sweden, where I can take it a little bit easy and focus on studying now, and focus on building my resume like later for the rest of my life, basically. So
it was quite different between people from different countries. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Were you inspired academically?
Right. I've already mentioned that I still want to continue with an international career, probably, and I could live pretty much anywhere. But I also really want to keep exploring international opportunities while I'm studying. So I do want to explore the possibility of doing internships, and I would love to do a minor field study and go collect data abroad for my thesis, for example. And I think those things sound really cool.
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I want to keep building that. I want to go to countries that don't speak English.
Oh, wow.
But then I also have to learn other languages. That's difficult, but I would love to do that.
Go to Montreal. I can tell you, a lot of people don't speak English.
No.
Changing the topic slightly, I'm sure some of our listeners are wondering, on your academic transcript, what happens when you take an exchange? So do you get a detailed list of the courses that you've taken abroad, or you just get like pass, fail, or does it just say exchange? How does it work?
So because Adina and I went
As part of the psychology
for the
program.
clinical psychology program, and in that case, we had to take pretty specific courses
Yeah.
that then were transferred and matched to the courses that we would have taken if we stayed in Sweden.
But on my transcript it says like the course that I took in New Zealand, not what it would have said in Sweden.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
but it also says
says-
the course that they use to transfer it into. So it's like they converted it. But I think you could get a specific, if you ask for a more detailed transcript, you can see, like, you can still see your courses that you took in your exchange, but you won't be able to see the grades.
No, because in the psychology program in Sweden there are no grades. Like it's only pass fail for our whole program. So actually having a grading system was also new, because that's what we had, both of us in Canada and in New Zealand. But they don't matter at all for us, because the grades don't matter in Sweden for psychology students.
But you can always get a transcript from the university that you went to for exchange. So for example, I have a transcript from McGill where it says my grades in case I need them, or if I want to show it to someone, like a future employer, for example.
Right. Yeah, and this also differs between different programs. So in the law program, we do have grades, and when they transfer in the courses, because we don't have to match our courses that we take abroad with ones we would take here, so it's within a free semester. So on my transcript, it says the course and the university and the grade from there. So they don't translate anything. So it's just the course as it was straight from University of Auckland.
All right. And finally, do you have any tips for students who will be returning home from their exchange soon, or might go on an exchange and are thinking about returning?
I feel like a balance is very important. Like I also went traveling a little bit, like for 2.5 weeks before I came home. And after, I was like very tired. So I feel like take care of yourself, spend time with family, take it easy. I think it's easy to like maybe try to see everyone too fast and get overwhelmed. But also don't isolate yourself, because I had a friend who did that and she was not feeling well. So I think what I did was like, I pretty immediately started seeing people, but like I took it gradually. So I was like, some people that day, and then like start getting back to normal life. And it was very nice to come home during the summer, because I could just like roam freely and live a pretty free life and rest. At least for 4 days. Then I started working, but whatever. That was also fun.
I think that's a very good point, to connect with others, but still take time for yourself as well, because it is a lot of things to process and your brain needs time to do that. So those little alone times were good too. And for me, it was very important to process my experiences too in different ways. I would do some writing, I would draw a little bit. Do crazy dances to try and get some stress out of my body.
Oh yeah, I held a presentation for my family, with like a photo presentation of my whole exchange, and that was also very nice, because then I got to process it.
And to talk to others who went on exchange, I think.
That was very nice
too.
I think on a final note, as an alternative maybe to what you guys are saying, not that I don't agree, but also make sure to stay in touch with the people that you get to know during exchange. They really appreciate it, and it's great. For you to, they can be friendships for life. They're not just friendships for like 4 or 5 months, but you need to like put the effort in, put the work in to stay in touch with them if you want to, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed.
It's very important. And then after a long while, it might be good also to look at what you learned and write down a list so you don't forget. Because those things can also be good for a CV or a personal letter in the future.
Perfect. Well, welcome back to Sweden, all of you.
Thank you.
Thanks for today. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Lund University International Podcast. If you're interested in learning more about Lund University, you can go to our website, lunduniversity.lu.se. You can also follow us on social media on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and X. And you can connect with our amazing student ambassadors on Unibuddy. Don't forget to subscribe, and we look forward to bringing you a new episode very soon.